Hello, hello, hello. And I am just that. I'm a son of the dirty South. Leon Francis, Blackbeard. Oh, the Confederate Confucius, the Southern. The There was a term that is escaping me right now that uh, Larry Elder sage. Yeah, the Southern sage. That's the term I'm looking for. But yeah, that song might sound weird coming from a guy from the middle of nowhere in North Dakota. Um, but North Dakota is my second home. I love this state. This state is awesome. But my I was born and bred in Louisiana, Catahoula Parish, Louisiana. Proud of that. Very, very, very proud of that. And I am also very, very proud and happy to be joining the 701 militia, the 701 Guns in the 701 militia, the Guns in the 701 network, the good folks like Jamie Breck and Axe and Clay have given me a chance on this platform to kind of, work in a little bit of my worldview here. And I couldn't be happier. What up, One Shot Cap? Welcome, welcome, brother. Welcome. So today's show is like the initial foray into this whole podcast space. See that I even sound like one of those podcasters right now. But so with this initial foray into this space, what I want to do, I'm integrating all of my social media so that I can upload content to the network, the Guns in the 701 network. I'm stoked about that. Me and Eli are going to have just tons of content for you guys. Good guys. I am a prepper. Folks that know me best know that about me. I'm also a Christian conservative. I'm a dad. I'm a Southern boy. My mom's with Jesus. My daddy's right upstairs in the living room shaking his cane at the 7-year old who I love more than life. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But on the show tonight, just to kind of unpack it a little bit in rapid fire style, we're going to start off with guns. I mean, with God, God, and the rubric that shapes my worldview. So you'll get a little snapshot into my mind, scary as that may be. You'll get a little snapshot in there. Our second topic is going to be the fundamental issue with progressive thought. Like, I don't know if you've heard Tim Kain, who was a breath away from being the vice president just a very, very short time ago, he said something that is truly, truly shocking. Truly shocking. Um, the third topic is going to be the Second Amendment and why it's so important. Like, our Second Amendment rights are constantly being abridged and curtailed and little caveats thrown in there. But there's a reason that our founders made that the very second thing they were like, hey, you know what? This is kind of important. And it was, especially when you look at the issue through the rubric of history and what they were doing at the time. That is the key. They weren't out there like with turkey loads trying to get a gobbler. That's not what they were doing. They weren't out there trying to get some deer sausage. That's not what they were doing. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to unpack that a little bit. And then I want to talk about number four. President Trump is signed. Well, he did sign earlier an executive order officially renaming the Department of Defense, and he's renaming that to the Department of War. And I like it. I'm all in for this. I voted for this. So good deal. We're going to move to number five, which will probably get me banned, but I'm going to do it anyway. The gayest, most retarded thing you'll hear on my podcast today. And that's going to be a lot to unpack because, man, I'm not even going to start now. We'll be here for a half an hour. And then I'm going to have number 6, my parting shots, one of which is my view on the UN and them being all wee-weed up about us blasting that Venezuelan drug boat out of the water. I don't know if you saw the video. It is a phenomenal video. And if you are a guy like me, like an outdoors guy, a gun guy, that sort of thing, when you see this and it's through night optics, and when you see that video, man, it does something proud to me. And I heard like there's videos floating around of Venezuelans going, "Oh, we're getting our navy together and blah blah." I bring it, dude. Do you really want that smoke? I don't think so. I don't think so. And then I also want to talk about RFK winning. He is winning for America. So we're going to have all those topics and more on the show today. So I'm going to start the show right now um, with God. I'm not a preacher. I do not want to come across as preachy, but I want you to understand my worldview a little bit. So, my worldview unpacked is I believe that God calls men to lead. He calls us to lead our households with love, strength, and sacrifice. And if we don't step up, our enemy, and that's the enemy of man. And we can see it in today's society, like just across the board. Just turn your TV on. If we don't step up, the enemy steps in. That enemy is an enemy to you, your family, and most of all, he's an enemy to Christ. You have to, as a godly man, and this is my belief, a godly man, you guard your home, you cover your family in prayer, and you lead them to Christ. A godly man, in my worldview, is Christ forward. He guards and protects the culture that he's training his kids to operate in. Nobody's going to tell you that. But as a man, God has given you dominion over your kids, and you can't delegate that dominion to anyone. Not the schools, not the doctors, not the government, no one. You are the father, and you need to exercise your God given authority to bless, protect, and train up your kids. God didn't God didn't allow or want fathers. He didn't create us to sit on the sidelines. He gave us a throne of stewardship. The head of every man is Christ. The head of the wife is her husband. That's 1 Corinthians 11:3. And dominion means you answer to God for all the souls under your care, all of them. Meaning it's your head on the chopping block if you don't do what you're supposed to do. As I said before, the schools won't save them, doctors won't shield them, the state will not bless them. If you hand your kids over to the state, you hand them to Babylon. And Babylon always devours its young. So you got to stand up as a father. You got to guard your sons and your daughters. You need to bless them in the word, protect them with your life, because one day you will stand before the Lord and give account. And no bureaucrat, no teacher, no doctor will answer in your place. Every crown is borrowed until it's laid at the foot of the Lamb. Now, culture will tell you that we as Christian men are no different from any other man. That is a lie. Godly men are the solution. Beta males is the cultural crisis we currently find ourselves in. And if you are the father of a boy or boys, God has doubly blessed you, even though they're going to give you gray hairs. I guarantee you that. But you got to rise to that challenge. Boys were designed by their creator to be doers. And it's through that rubric, that experience, that adventure, that their masculinity is forged, their identities are fostered, and they become young men. It's through this action, not merely mental gymnastics, that the muscles of faith are strengthened and the muscles of patriotism are forged. You will be the guy your boy most models in his life as his future self. So make him a warrior. Make him a warrior for Christ. Make him a warrior for the culture. Make him a warrior for America. And that's the only way we get back to those scrappy little guys with their muskets standing up to King George and saying, "Hey, no more. We're done with that." So that's my spiel on my worldview. That's what I believe. And so everything that you hear from me is coming out of that rubric right there. I believe that God put me on this earth to create God fearing kids and a God fearing warrior in my sons. So that's where we end with that. Now, second point, and you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm kind of new to this operating system, this GUI as us nerds call it. Oh, and I'm an IT guy. I'm a network guy, so I'm one of those nerds. When I tell some folks that, they don't believe it, but yeah, that's what I am. I'm a nerd, but I do other stuff. Anyway, my number 2 point, my number 1 point was that just kind of unpacking that worldview for you guys so you understand where I'm coming from. My number 2 point is the fundamental issue with progressive thought. Now, given my worldview that I just kind of unpacked for you guys, you can imagine when I'm thinking about liberals and their worldview, which to me just seems like demonic, in my humble opinion. And just to kind of sidetrack on that for just a second, like my dad, lifelong Democrat. That's like it's a thing. Um, but now he lives here with me. So I have, like, I don't know if you saw the reel that I did earlier in the middle of my living room, and a very prominent spot. I have a life-size version of the Constitution and all of the accompanying documents. And so that's what sits in my house. And my dad and I, we talk regularly about like the state of the culture, the state of religion in our country, in the world. How do we move forward? Or we talk about race relations. We talk about pretty much everything. Things that I haven't done with him for in a very long time. But him coming to live with us is a blessing. It's a blessing because I got to unpack my father, the man. But the more, like, we had this one discussion, and he was like, Republicans this, Republicans that, until I kind of woosawed, whew, and I just told him, I want you to look at a couple of things. And I just start pulling things up, um, the Democrat platform, some things that prominent Democrats say, the whole tranny thing, the rainbow jihad thing. My dad he could not believe it. And it's because normally he'd be watching the mainstream media. When he's here, we don't do that thing. So, but by the end of the conversation, he actually called the modern day Democrats demonic. And I was happy to hear him recognize that and realize that, he didn't raise some weird son. No, my views are a reflection of his views. I just had my blinders taken off at a very, very young age, and I have never been back to that plantation, as the Candace Owens and the Brandon Tatums would tell you. Anyway, let's go back. Fundamental issue with progressive thought. Tim Kain, this guy, said, and I'm going to play the audio. It's remarkable. I mean, it's simply remarkable. I'm going to play you what he said right now. Here we go. I'm going to back that up a bit. So, right there, that to me is a red flag. That's a red flag because you think about that. You think about what he just said. He said, hang on. Basically, the thought that our rights come from God and not government is troubling. Wait, what? That is incredible to me that a sitting senator from Virginia, no less, he rejects the core principle of our Declaration of Independence, the core principle. He announced that this core fundamental principle of our country, affirmed in the Declaration of Independence, is extremely troubling and theocratic. Everything, in my opinion, is theocratic. It just depends on who the theo is. In his mind, the theo in a theocratic society is government. And to me, so one shot, you could not hear that? Here, give me a second. I will try to. Oof. I will try to, and again, bear with me. I knew that there were going to be some growing pains here. I knew it. Just give me a second here. I'm going to try to pull it back up so that you hear it, so you get the full context of what he's saying. Thank you for throwing that in the comments. What I'm going to do here, give me a second. Uh, I'm going to see if I do this. Let's do this. I'm going to share that, and let's see if we can.
Laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator. That's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling. The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come.
So, until I get confirmation right now, what he said was, and I quote, the notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that, okay, he said he heard it loud and clear, so good deal. Sorry about that, guys. All right, I'm gonna do this. Give me a sec, and we're back to my ugly mug. But basically, so to go back, what he's saying there is government is the creator. Government is the theo, and the theocracy that he wants. And the that is the operating mindset of the progressives, of the Democrats. And to be 100% honest, some rhinos out there also believe this, which is why it's so important to be rooted in the Constitution, to be rooted in that, so we understand that, like Rush Limbaugh used to say, he said that his talent was on loan by God or from God. I forget exactly how he phrased that, but that's what this is. The Our Creator endowed us with certain inalienable rights. Understand that the word inalienable means cannot be taken from you, even in death. That means it is as much a part of you as me being black and my blood being red. Those are inescapable facts. They cannot be taken from me, even if I identified as a blue-blooded Vulcan from the planet, whatever, Star Trek. And I know that's wrong. I'm going to get so much crap for mixing up that metaphor. But the fact of the matter is, this is what they believe. They believe this. It's remarkable, and it's troubling to me. In my opinion, he should be removed from office. He's rejecting our nation's fundamental, foundational principle because he wants to be king. Like Ragnar Lothbrok, who wants to be the king? He does. They do. In my opinion, there's a single sentence that binds our nation together, and it's this: we hold these truths to be self evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Rights that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, those things are fundamental, and there's a good reason why our founding fathers made such a big deal about that. I think I hear the 7-year-old somewhere. Anyway, I got the camera system up, but oh, okay, no, I see mom is home. My apologies. I have to kind of keep a lookout. Security cameras all over the place in the bunker here, just in case liberals want to do something idiotic. Anyway, back to what we were talking about, the fact that our rights come from our Creator, and are inalienable, and not to mention, and think about this, they're self-evident, supposed to be self-evident. Now, you got to remember, back in that day and time, these types of ideals, when you get away from the King Georges and the tyrants and those folks, this was an abstract concept outside of the folks that came here and thought, you know what? God and God gave me the same thing he gave King George. And if left unmolested, I could have a pretty happy life. I mean, obviously King George, he disagreed. Let's just say that. He disagreed. And he probably still does from whatever fiery seat he's sitting in right now. But that's a whole nother story, and I'm not his judge, so I'm not going to go there. But you got to understand that if your rights don't come from God, they come from politicians, and the politicians will absolutely glom on to that. We saw it during COVID. If there is power to be stolen, they will steal it. And that's across party lines. The only folks that don't that are kind of like hands off the power are the libertarians, but then, there's some issues there too, but I'm not here to pick a fight on the first initial podcast. So I love my libertarian brothers and sisters. I am I my worldview has a lot of libertarian values in it. I'll just say that, and we're gonna unpack that. Not today, not on this podcast, but that will happen. Absolutely. But you just need to understand that if government is your Theo, then your Theo is fickle. I mean, your Theo told us that cloth masks work. Your Theo, and we're going to talk about this later on in this podcast. Your Theo has been lying to you about vaccines and just pretty much everything that is coming out of those three-letter agencies. They kind of lie to you a lot. A lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. And them giving you whatever liberty that you have means that they're like Australia or the UK where, yeah, you have free speech, but you can't say these things. Then that's not free speech. That's not even freedom. It's slavery. It's like the Democrat Party when a guy like me with my melanin level comes out and I say something Christian or conservative. Oh, they don't like that. Oh my God, they hate that. They're like, how dare you? You know why? Because they think they own me. Yeah, there's a meme, and I use it quite frequently. That especially when Trump got into office and he started actually caring about Black lives because Democrats do not care about Black lives. If you think they do, I have some stories out of D.C., Chicago, and New York that will just put all that craziness to bed. But the fact of the matter is, Democrats haven't been this upset since Republicans took their slaves away and made sure that they stayed free. So anyway, I hope I did not just turn off a bunch of folks that would have listened, but it's the truth. So what Democrats want for this country is not freedom. They want slavery in disguise. They want to give you bits of what they want you to perceive as freedom and then keep a ton of the power for themselves. One of the reasons I love North Dakota and states like North Dakota is ultimate freedom. Right now, we homeschool our kid, the 7-year-old. He's learning the way God intended him to learn. And in this state, we have the freedom to do that. Not to mention the freedom not to be to touch grass every now and then. Like you go to the side of Chicago, those kids don't get to touch grass ever. They should. I do believe that there's a causal link between touching grass and being a Democrat. There's a there's a thing there that just does not jive. It's like holy water to vampires or something like that. Garlic to those guys. That's what it is. Anyway, that's not freedom, in my opinion. Government giving you certain rights, the way Tim Kain believes, and I cannot believe he actually said that out loud with a straight face. It's crazy. That's not freedom. That's slavery in disguise. Now, let's move on to my number three. Good gravy. I hope I can get through all these. Number three, we're going to talk a little bit about the Second Amendment. Now, especially in light of horrific shootings like in Minneapolis, and they are always selective um, outrage when it comes to any of this. Like with Black Lives Matter, it's always a selective outrage. So you got to keep that in mind. And with me, my blinders automatically filter that out. So when I hear some fat politician talking about we got to do something, even if it's Trey Gowdy, a guy who I at one time really, really admired. Even if it's someone like him, my filter comes on and I go, is this liberty or the other thing? And if it's the other thing, yeah, I don't want to hear it. I'm not there. That's not that's not what I'm about. Like if you heard my intro music, I'm a son of the dirty South. That's picking switches. That's what I and my switches are for godforsaken liberals and progressive politicians and idiotic people like that, idiots as we call them in the South. Anyway, Second Amendment, very, very crucial to a free society because it protects the individual right to keep and bear arms, and that right is essential for self-defense and a safeguard against potential government tyranny. Now, not only and we kind of touched on this. It's the only right that our founders saw the need to put do not touch. Can't be touched. Well, actually, they said shall not be infringed, but that's what they meant. Hands off to government. And again, walk back just a bit. You have to understand that our founders, when they created these founding documents, what they were doing was they were restricting government, not restricting the individual. They were restricting what government can do to you, to the individual. That's the whole thing. In a nutshell, they're like, well, we gotta have some government. But what we need to do is restrain it. And I would argue it has not been restrained in quite some time. I am happy to see what's going on now with folks like RFK in there, with folks like Trump in there, and Pete Hegseth, and I'm happy to Elon with the Doge. I'm happy to see that there are some measures of restraint being put back on government, but it is a behemoth, a leviathan. It is massive now. Our founding fathers would have found this just crazy, the amount of power that the limited government that they gave us has right now. Now, our Second Amendment is like our First Amendment, our freedom of speech. It was meant to be a check on government and a means of preserving personal and societal security. What you have to understand is where this mindset came from, why they would have thought this way at that time. So if you look back historically, the right to bear arms was rooted in the American colonists and their experience with the British crown, where they disarmed them. And it was used as a tool of oppression, which is why you'll have some loony left wing nut job do something horrific. And everybody talks about gun control because gun control isn't for that loony guy. They're happy that that loony guy did the loony thing that he did. I mean, we all know Rahm Emanuel's famous, never let a good tragedy go to waste. And I believe that when thing because it's selective, because again, if you are a black kid on the south side of Chicago any given weekend, things are getting shot up and you don't have Pasaki and Kain and what's her name, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and AOC. You don't have any of those guys going, my God, we got to do something about this because it's been happening my entire lifetime, and no one has done a thing about it except now Trump is attempting to, and we're going to talk about that later. Hopefully, I don't talk too much and we don't get to it because I really want to get to that. But anyway, our Second Amendment is a guarantee that we continue to preserve personal and societal security. The right to bear arms historically is considered important to a free society because it protects the individual right to keep and bear arms, and it is essential for self defense and a safeguard against potential government tyranny. It is the only right, like we discussed before, that includes the words shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Our framers, they were influenced by the anti federalist concerns, and they sought to ensure that citizens could maintain arms to resist potential federal overreach. That's it, in a nutshell. So the next time you hear, oh, we have to weigh the safety of our children, my kid's safe. I the safety of our children against a right that our founders enshrined, and then put a double stamp on shall not be infringed. The next time these guys want to infringe just a little bit to protect the children, remember that a lot of those guys are also anti-life. They are pro-aborts. They don't talk about the lives of the kids that are lost every weekend in Chicago, or in South Central LA, or in New Orleans, or pick any urban um, blue led Democrat city and see how much they actually care about children or black lives or minorities or anyone. They don't. They use, and that's all they do. You gotta you gotta stand strong in that. And I know a ton of people. Again, Trey Gowdy, he was paying lip service and homage to the anti-gun people. One other thing I'd say on this is modern jurisprudence. U.S. Supreme Court affirmed that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess firearms for self-defense, and not just the collective right of a state militia, because they also threw that in there. They're like, oh, they said no, no. Back then, the militia was me, you, Jamie, and a couple of the Sons of Liberty getting together to defend North Dakota. That's what a militia was. It wasn't a standing army. They were fighting against a standing army. They didn't have one. It was a bunch of scrappy rebels that stood up to the power structure of the time and fought for their liberty. And that's what the Supreme Court has ruled on. Landmark case, Columbia versus Heller, that's 2008, and McDonald versus the City of Chicago, 2010, which extended the right to both federal and state levels. In 2022, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin further reinforced this by requiring that gun regulations be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. So, make no mistake, the ability of citizens to possess firearms is crucial for personal protection and maintaining liberty. It is something that plays a central role in the American understanding of individual rights and the balance of power between government and the people. Us being the people, government being the oh, Leviathan. I apologize for that. Wow, what is going on? All right, let's move on. Number 4. And before I get too far, um, you guys, I don't have like all of the commercials and all of that, but please support the sponsors of this podcast and Guns in the 701, the 701 Militia, all those guys. Support them. so we can. Well, one of the things that just irks me, and I mean, it just cheeses my absolute hominy grits. And I'm just gonna say this, be very brief about it. The fact that someone like Rob Port could have the number one podcast in North Dakota, that does something very, very weird to me. And we have to be better. I'm just going to say that. And we can't be better if we don't support our sponsors and we don't get our voices amplified in that way. So please, please support the sponsorship of shows like this, Guns of the 701, Clay, Jamie, all those folks, so we can keep bringing you good content to combat the left and the imbecilic rantings of a Rob Port, who is godless. And I'm not saying that as a smear. He just is. He's an atheist. So there you go. I'm gonna drop that because I don't want I don't want to turn away anyone. So, but that, my 2 cents on that, grit cheese, and I'm telling you right now. Anyway, number 4, President Trump signed the executive order officially renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War. I voted for this. I Pete Hegseth and those guys, absolutely phenomenal. Those guys. So I'm gonna play this clip here. Give me 1 second. We're gonna do that. And let me know in the comments if you can hear it.
The Department of Defense. To which you said that just doesn't sound right. So maybe next time we're here, my card will read Department of War. We'll see. But it's not, here's the thing, here's what people miss. It's not just about words. It's about the warrior ethos. It's about what the department is supposed to do. George Washington started the Department of War because he wanted us to win our wars. Our founders didn't want endless foreign entanglements. They didn't want endless contingencies and deployments. They wanted an empowered military that was, the handcuffs were taken off to fight to win. Started my sentence.
Yep. And I agree 100%. This is what I voted for. This is what, sorry about that. This is what I voted for. I voted for strong leadership, strong men, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America type strength. I like it. And Trump done. This is what winning looks like, in my humble opinion. It's this thing right here, and that's not the end of it. Like Trump is a disruptor type person, and he's like a once in a lifetime type of dude. This guy, and in my lifetime, probably the most consequential political figure of my lifetime, and probably in yours. As a matter of fact, I mean, you think about it, it's what he's been able to accomplish is truly remarkable. The fact of the matter is, it's like I said before. Um, when we talk about issues like George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which was not a movement at all. It was all orchestrated. A couple of folks got rich. It was basically run by 3 homosexual women that took millions, billions of dollars and just didn't do a single thing to help any black lives. And then you get Trump, who comes in. What do you got to lose? Is what he said. And then he actually cares about the crime and the loss of life in these liberal run urban centers. As a matter of fact, one of those liberal run urban centers is Chicago. And Chicago is just a special kind of. I don't even understand. I don't understand the mindset of folks that would vote for the people that. I mean, the last mayor that they had, I called her Beetlejuice because you saw her. You saw her, but you keep voting for these people, and these people mean you no good. I learned that at a very, very early age. Very early age. I was still. I think I might have been a teenager in Louisiana, and I noticed that every election cycle, you get all these Democrats that come circling around the ghetto, and they're promising this, and they're promising gold streets and milk and honey and like a chicken in every pot, and it sounds great. And they get everybody in the ghetto wearing their shirts, and that, and then after the election, nothing. You look around, still got graffiti, still got Tyrone selling crack up the street, still got Shaniqua with her 5 baby daddies down there, and uh, nothing ever got better. Nothing. And then, and this moves me to number 5, and it's the gayest, most retarded thing you'll hear on my podcast today. Uh, then you have people like this, and this is the mayor of Chicago. Give me a second here. That was not the right thing. Give me 1 second here. The I listened at people like this guy, and it amazes me that anybody will listen to him, and let alone vote for him. I mean, this guy he's nuts. 1 second, and I will have that right now.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution, are you prepared to...
Yeah, that's enough of that idiot. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do that. Couple of things about that, and there's a reason why this is the gayest, most retarded thing you'll hear on my podcast today. One, Chicago was not built by slaves. It wasn't built by indigenous people. It was founded in the 1830s as part of the Free State of Illinois. Slavery was banned in 1787 by the Northwest Ordinance. So, its early development, this is Chicago, was based on free settlers, immigrants, entrepreneurs, and all of that good stuff. It was not built by slaves, but it was founded by a free black man named Jean Baptiste Pont du Salut. See what I did that? Here, one shot, I know. Man, I know, man. And I'm sorry I'm not getting all the comments. That will come with me using this platform more, trying to get all the comments to come in from all the different platforms. So just bear with us. We're going to iron all this out. So, again, uh, Chicago was founded by a black dude, a free black man named Baptiste Pont, and I said that whole thing. In 1779, during the American Revolution, as a matter of fact, he was arrested by the British on suspicion of being an American patriot sympathizer. So, not only was he black, he was a patriot. Think about that. That is unbelievable. And then this idiot is standing here and he's going, Chicago, built by slaves and built by indigenous people. No, no, that's not true. None of that. Um, Gene, I'm just going to call him Gene because to go through that whole thing again is just, that's crazy. He's recorded as living at the mouth of the Chicago River in a trader's journal of early 1790. By then, he had established an extensive and prosperous trading settlement and would later became the city of Chicago. I'm so tired of mayors like this idiot. The gayest, most retarded thing you'll hear on my podcast today is that idiot. Always with the race baiting. Think about that. He's a fraud. He's delusional. The founder of Chicago was a free black man, but he can't stand there and say that. think about how proud the black folks in Chicago would be if they knew that. But no, this low IQ grifter, he's got to grift. He's got to throw that race card out. I'm beginning to believe that only criminals and Chicago politicians want to keep the crime, because he's saying this because Trump is threatening to come in and do to Chicago's South Side what he did to DC. Basically clean it up and make it not the crime-ridden liberal cesspool that it is because of people like that guy. It's Trump wants to, as a matter of fact, today he's planning on sending 300 ICE agents to Chicago to battle the sanctuary policies. Like, mainstream media won't tell you this, but tons of Chicago residents are PO'd. They're pissed off that all of these migrants were basically bused, shipped, flown into Chicago. Some of their after school programs had to be shut down in order to house these people. And tons of people are pissed off about it. Tons of black people are mad about it. Mad, livid about it. And Trump wants to clean that up. I'm going to play this clip. Bear with me for 2 seconds here. We're gonna. So Pritzker says, if you hurt my people, and again, politicians being politicians, if you hurt my people, nothing will stop me, not time or political circumstance, from making sure that you face justice under our constitutional rule. Pritzker, who never met a peanut butter sandwich that he didn't devour. That guy. But I want you to listen to this.
Now, that city's Democratic,
This
it's not just the National Guard. Multiple sources telling Fox News that ICE agents are set to move into Chicago for an immigration crackdown. Now, that city's Democratic leaders are expected to resist, but many locals, like our next guest, say is a long time coming. Bashan Tunsil will join us in a moment, talk about the resident sentiments in a moment. They're in Chicago. But first, the senior correspondent Mike Tobin, who's got...
And, Bill, we know that some federal staff is already at the Great Lakes Naval Base north of Chicago. And Illinois Senators Tammy Duck and Dick Durbin are demanding that the Secretary of the Navy provide them with some information for how that base is going to be used. And then a meeting of North suburban leaders was told that some 300 federal agents are expected in Chicagoland. Now, the mayor of Broadview, a suburb to the west of Chicago.
Now, so I wanted to play that just so you can have some context. I also want to play this. Now, I recorded this Monday. So, over the Labor Day weekend, 54 people were shot. 7 folks lost their lives in one weekend, the Labor Day weekend. You didn't have folks on TV crying about it. You didn't have politicians pulling out their hair because of the loss of life. You didn't have any of that because they couldn't capitalize on that. They couldn't capitalize on it. So I recorded this. I am going to move to this. Give me 1 second here. Just wanted to make you guys 1 second. Right here. So I recorded this on Monday. Just wanted to make you guys aware that in Chicago over the Labor Day weekend, 54 people were shot. 7 of them died. Now, this is in a blue lead urban area. They've had protests to keep Donald Trump out. They say he's a fascist. And from all indications, everything that I've seen, Donald Trump actually believes that Black Lives Matter, and these Democrats leading these urban hellholes do not think that Black Lives Matter. I want you guys to keep that image in your head of 54 over the weekend. 54 people shot, 7 dead. And I want to know, outside of me and my social media and a couple other guys, has the mainstream media come out? Did Psaki cry about the loss of Black lives? Did you hear that? Did you hear Newsom or did Fox News and Trey Gowdy come on talking about restricting gun rights after this weekend? Let me know. Drop them in my comments. I want you guys to listen. I want everyone who clicks on this video to picture themselves at their kids' high school football game, gun-free zone. I mean, it's a football game, so it's a gun-free zone. I want you to picture yourself at that gun-free zone when this happens.
In Chicago, everybody gotta get down. Everybody gotta get down because they shoot. Everybody down.
Man, chill out.
This is a football game. These kids are running.
Oh my God.
They shooting. We can't have no fun in Chicago, man. No fun, man.
So think about that. I want you to think about that. Think about you. We're in North Dakota, so I'm just. But picture it's South Dakota. Picture, Montana, Minnesota, anywhere. You're with your homie. You're at the football game for your kid, gun-free zone because it's a football game, school football game. Your son is out there. He's the cornerback. Your homie's boy is the quarterback. They're making one hell of a play, and then all of a sudden, gunfire just erupts. Like no rhyme, no reason. Kids running off the field. Kids getting down. Parents just terrified. This is a gun-free zone. This is a Democrat-led hellscape, is what it is. And I know, like Pritzker came out and Newsom came out, and they were all like, well, actually, in the most crime and violent crime, gun crimes, comes out of red states. Well, that's true, but it's a lie of omission because true, the state might be red, but all of the crime comes out of the blue urban led cities. That's where it's at. That's where it's at. Which is why I am so adamant about folks taking their Second Amendment right seriously. I remember, and this is just a small caveat, detour. I remember in the Mall of America, This is when uh, I've been kind of a gun guy for a very very long time, but I never pushed it on my wife. I you know I'm gonna protect her, yada yada yada. The day all that changed was that day in Minneapolis at the Mall of America, where I saw that Muslim guy pick up that, I think, 6-year old and throw him off the top of the balcony there, like 2 stories. Miraculously, the kid lived. But the thing that just shocked me was people had their cameras out. People had their cameras out. We had video from multiple angles of this idiot doing this horrific thing. People had their cameras out. And I told my wife, "Wait a minute. I think we just had a glitch or something." Because it tells me that I have just joined. I don't understand what's going on. My mic is muted while you are backstage. I don't understand that at all. Can you guys hear me? So we're gonna work through the kinks. My apologies. I Let me know if you guys can hear me. Here, I'm gonna. We might have to do a short recess here. I need to know if you guys can hear me. If I'm live here or is something weird going on. Um, but in case you can still hear me, I remember that day telling my wife she has to be armed anywhere she goes, everywhere she goes, especially if she has Eli with her. Okay, gotcha. I impressed upon my wife, and I showed her the video. It just mind blowing that folks could stand around and allow. Again, had I been there, and I'm armed everywhere I go. Had I been there, I would have sent him to his demon god, which is what I expect would happen if any of my friends had been there. They wouldn't have pulled out their phones. The guy would have got aerated. But in the off chance that I am not there, I want my wife to be cogent enough, trained enough that if someone puts their hands on my 7-year old, or even if she just sees something like that happen, she's not going to allow that child to come to harm. And that's what you need. The reason why these folks in Chicago are all getting down and they're terrified, and these idiots, these thugs, are so comfortable rolling through a school football game and shooting up the place is they it's a gun free zone. No one there is going to be armed, and so it's just basically shooting fish in a barrel. The spray and pray types, they would think twice about that if they knew, well, I don't know, Eli's dad is there and a bunch of Eli's dad's friends are there. And if we go, and we might not come out of this thing in one piece, you know? And that's one of the reasons why I believe that the Second Amendment is so crucial, so important. And any restrictions on your Second Amendment rights, like if you are in a state that is not a shall give you a concealed carry or a constitutional carry or an open carry. If you're in one of those cities, y- you are in danger. You're in real, because if I'm a criminal, I know that. I know that the straight laced, law abiding people in this area cannot fight back. And that's what happened at that football game. nobody could fight back because they're all law-abiding people, and the law says you can't have a firearm. Think about how crazy that is. You cannot protect yourself. It's against the law for you to protect yourself. Folks are shooting at the school. You're in Chicago, Southside. So that's a thing that's probably going to happen, but you are not allowed. I think about what would happen if one of those fathers, like, put his family on the ground, stood up, and took a shot at one of those idiots, those thugs. What would happen to him? He'd probably be in as much trouble as those juveniles, and they tend to all be juveniles that do this sort of thing. The older gangsters kind of know, well, if I do that, they're going to put me under the jail. But if Jerome over there, who's 13, does it, he'll be out in a couple of years, or he might even get probation because they don't want to kill his dreams, by sending him to jail where he belongs. But that's another issue altogether. What I want you to do is picture you at that football game, enjoying the game and seeing your kids out there, and then that happens. What do you do? Who do you blame? Something to think about. A point to ponder, as I like to say. So we're going to move on because that's a little depressing, and I'll go forever on that. Trump wants to get in there and get rid of the crime, and Pritzker and that other idiot. They don't want him to come, and the amount of gaslighting is just off the charts. Trump is a tyrant. He wants to come in and take away your freedoms and whatnot. No, and if you had two brain cells to rub together, you'd understand that none of that is true. None of it. But that's what those folks got, and it's the reason I don't live in like I left Louisiana. I love Louisiana, but the areas where we lived, uh, you know, in a lot of areas, especially those blue urban centers where you very rarely touch grass, they're not a place to bring a family into. My wife and I, we moved to Kansas City. Uh, at first, like, we were in North Dakota and we were researching, Kansas City because I was going to get my MCSC. That's an IT degree at a school down there, and we already had two of our kids. They were very very young, and we were researching, best places. So we were looking at like uh, where the rent was low and this and that. All of that was a lie. I'm going to just tell you right off the bat, nothing they put on that website was true. But what we ended up doing is going in there, finding out we broke our lease. I mean, I think the first day we set my son down, and when I picked him up, I smelled weed, and he was chewing on a weed cigarette. But that's a whole nother story. And like, there were shootings every other night. It was horrible. It wasn't until we moved to North Kansas City that we had some peace, and rent was astronomically high, and this and that. But the point that I'm making is these urban centers are not conducive to one, raising a healthy family, and two, it seems to me that there's some type of mental blockage when you're in an urban center and you're being taken care of with subsidies and all of that stuff. Uh, there's a tendency not to do the things that God intended you to do. Like, one of the reasons why we are raising our son, Eli, out here in God's country under open air in the country in the middle of nowhere is because I want him to be normal. I don't want him injected with 78 vaccines that are going to muddle his mind and make him autistic. And on that note, later on we're going to talk about that. RFK, in that hearing he mentioned the study that I've known about for quite some time, where they took um, uh, kids that were vaccinated, I think up to 6 months or something to that effect. They got all their vaccination versus a subset of kids that were not, that had them staggered out, and it was like 80% of the black kids that they had vaccinated to the hilt, because that's what the doctors told them to do, had autism, and like almost none of the other group did. There's something there, and I'm glad that folks like RFK is finally. My mom was one of those people that did not believe in vaccines, and she side eye every time we went for a wellness check, and they asked her that, and she's like, "Nope," and she had to get all that garbage for it. But where I grew up, a lot of black parents did not trust the government. I don't know when that changed, but obviously it did, and there you go. Anyway, so I'm gonna move on to a couple of my parting shots. This one I love. It's funny. You got to forgive some of the words that are used. I think I bleeped them out successfully, but so Donald Trump, and this is one of my parting shots. Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and all those guys protecting America. Uh, we got like all these drugs coming into our country, and nobody seems to be able to do anything about it until now. Same thing with the crime, the life that people are going to get shot, and all of this stuff. It, but it's not. We don't have what these folks are telling people, or showing people anyway, is we don't have to live like this. And so what Trump is doing is like a multi-prong approach. One of those prongs is stopping the drugs before they get here. And so you got this boat laden with drugs, and it's in international waters, and we blow it out of the sky. And then, oh my God, the media is like, oh, they're a boat of tourists and blah, blah, blah. The UN is like, oh my God, you can't do that, this and that. And I'm going to just tell you right off the bat, Marco Rubio has been a very, very pleasant surprise. I haven't always been a Rubio fan, but since he's been in this capacity, I love the dude. He, like, the blinders are off, the filter is off. He says what he means, and his masculine energy is way up here, way up here. And so this is coupled with Marco Rubio and a reporter asking him about how he feels about the UN. So bear with me. Give me a second here. I love this thing. It's pretty funny. And here we go.
Says they're not involved in the UN. I don't care what the UN
Yep.
says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about.
Got all that.
Somehow Venezuela's not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the UN. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about.
UN, you have a problem with that? You know what you should do? You should sanction me. Sanction me with your army. Oh, wait a minute. You don't have an army. I guess that means you need to shut the up. That's what I do if I don't have no army. I would shut up. Shut the
All right. So that was Marco Rubio answering a idiotic question from the idiotic media about the UN not liking the fact that Donald Trump blew that druggie's boat out of the water. And oh no, Brian, you're all good. You're all good. And that was superimposed with Dave Chappelle back in the day. And they're saying something about the UN doesn't agree with, well, and Dave Chappelle has the right answer here. He's like, and so what? We fund the UN. Without America, the UN would just fall apart. And I am all for Donald Trump going in there, kicking them out of New York, shutting down the building, pulling all of our funds out of there because I think it's all being wasted. I think all of it is. I think that the UN is involved in some very, very nefarious things. They're like a kingpin. I mean, you want drugs, you want child prostitution, you want slave trade. Just go to the UN because it's all represented there. That being said, Marco Rubio, I mean, how great is that? How awesome is that? That is peak masculinity traits right there, brother. That is just phenomenal. And like I said, I haven't always been a Marco Rubio fan, but I'm becoming one. I've seen way too many press briefings where he just has a um, I don't want to say don't give a ish, attitude because clearly he does, but he is so had it with the dumbassery of the media. Yeah, he's done with it. He's over it. He's got a Trump-esque attitude about him. He's like, yeah, so they're selling drugs. They're trying to get them here. We stopped them. That's it. I don't care what the UN has to say about it. He sounds, and I don't know if you guys have picked up on this because I have. I have picked up on this. I hear him speaking, and I hear Al Pacino in The Godfather. You pick up on that because I do. Like just the way he came off, and that's every single press conference. All of them were hostile because it's the United States, the press corps. So all of those guys are imbecilic idiots, as we say in the South. They forgot to leave their crazy at the front door when they came in. Like my mom used to say, "Hide your crazy, baby. We got company coming over." They didn't get that talking to by their moms, so they come in there with their just asinine questions and their craziness. And I'm happy to see it getting shut down left and right by folks like Marco Rubio. Now, my next one, and this is all peak masculinity. The next thing I want to talk about, last one, last parting shot that is Secretary Kennedy, RFK. Now, when he first came out, and he threw his hat in the ring, and I think it was Nicole Shanahan, who I've also grown to admire. She turned her life to God. She's a Christian now. Um, but she has a show like on the Blaze or somewhere, and she's talking about Christianity, and she recently had a article about what goes on at the Burning Man. That crazy left wing, just demonic celebration out there, where somebody actually died and they found him in a pool of blood, but that's a whole nother issue. So when he first came out with Nicole Shanahan as his VP and all of that, I'm like, what is this crazy guy? And I can't understand anything he's saying. But then the more he spoke, like I'm not 100% like some of his policy, um, some of his thoughts on policies and freedom and liberty. I'm not there. But what this guy has done to HHS and our health department and the whole vaccine thing. Like this guy was out there talking, censored though he was, talking about the COVID vaccine, which is not a vaccine. I want to make that clear. I don't believe it's a vaccine. And he said as much when Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, uh, tried to say, but you promised that the COVID vaccine, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't say that. What he said was, um, he is not just going to pull all vaccinations. They're going to be studied. If they're effective, great. If not, we're going to talk about it. And the COVID shot is not a vaccination. It doesn't have those indicators. And he basically said that. But he said so much. Like I very rarely listen to any of these congressional hearings and things because it's mainly showboating. That's what it is. And no, I'm in this camp. If these congressional hearings don't end with people swinging from very tall trees and very short ropes, I'm not interested. I'm just, dude, I am not interested because it's all for show. But Secretary Kennedy, he's firing people. I believe some people should go to jail for what they put us through the COVID thing. And not just that, not just through COVID thing. I think people should go to jail for what they did with this whole tranny thing. I mean, if you are in the medical community, and all of them did, the CDC, HHS, the thing for the kids. I'll think about it in a minute here, but all of them came out with this just absolutely crazy. Generations are rolling over in their grave because these guys came out and said that little boys could be little girls, and we're supposed to just take that. We're just supposed to go, oh, okay, against everything that everyone has known since the beginning of time. These people say, well, we're all in agreement, and everyone is supposed to go, oh, okay. The the people that told us that cloth masks stop a respiratory disease, those people, we're supposed to listen to them and go, uh, okay. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play a couple of clips from this hearing, and you guys can drop your comments in the comment section. We're going to talk about some of the things that he brought up, and man, my hat's off to him. He took it like a champ. Like he came out of it. Most of the time, you get our squishy Republicans that go into these things and they're tongue tied. This dude was vaccine injured and he can't even speak clearly, but he decimated these liberals and a couple of Republicans that were trying to find fault in what he is doing. And what he's doing is making America healthy. Like some of the statistics that he was bringing forth, I had never heard of them, but they're true if you research them. And so, what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to a couple of clips from
sickest country in the world. We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again. We are the
100%. Did you hear what he said? We became the sickest country in the world. He said earlier in this clip. This clip doesn't show this, but he said earlier that when his uncle was president, they spent, I think, zero on preventable diseases and things like that. And now it's like 80 some odd percent that we're spending, like an astronomical amount that we're spending on preventable diseases and diseases that basically America has contracted in this short America. And you got HHS that's supposed to be making us healthy. And what he's saying is they failed miserably at their job. And he's right. our kids are fat. Like there are statistics showing how few of our kids, I think almost 8 out of 10 could not pass the military fitness test. That's insane to me. That's insane. Because if that's the case, how are we going to fight if something were to happen? I mean, you're going to have the old guys like me. Like I did the Pete and Bobby challenge. And I did it. Um, 2 days later, I couldn't lift my arms. I'm just gonna, but I knocked it out. I knocked it out in 6 minutes. The limit is 10 minutes. I did it in 6. They were shooting for 5. Neither one of them got 5, and they're a lot fitter than I am. Pete Hexeth and Bobby Kennedy, just muscles out of the wazoo. But I did it in 6. But what he's saying is 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 of our kids can't complete the military readiness. They That's a problem. I mean, that's a problem. Here, I'm going to play another small clip of JFK.
We were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. We were lied to about it.
100% right. It is JFK, RFK, the entire, like you watched the entire hearing. It was all like this. He's laying out the facts. And if you were looking at your social media or the mainstream media, they're calling him a nut job. They're saying he's a danger to America and all of the and I'll tell you this, I'm so jaded. The second I hear danger to our democracy or danger to our healthcare, I'm interested. I want to know what that guy said because what that guy said is probably the right thing, and the people gaslighting me are wrong. But here, I'm going to play this clip.
Everything. We were lied to about.
Wrong one. Sorry, folks.
There are 2 hepatitis vaccines, and one of them had a safety study that lasted for 4 days on 143 kids for a product that's going to be given to 76 million kids. Yeah. The risk profile prior to the introduction of the vaccine, the risk of a baby dying from hepatitis B was 1 in 7 million. That means you need to give 7 million hepatitis B vaccines to prevent 1 death. If you're going to give 7 million, so there are 2 hepatitis vaccines, and one of them had a safe.
That is insane. Like what the mainstream media and the Leviathan would have you believe pass as science in their estimation is anything science. The things RFK is bringing to light, seriously, in generations past, there would be tar, feathers, rails, ropes, and trees. Like none of this is okay. Like nothing he laid out there that our government has been doing in the way of healthcare is okay. None of it. Like he is firing everyone. And again, I believe people should swing for what they have done to this country after a fair hearing, of course. And all the data is out there and all, but especially Mr. The Science, Fauci. Yeah, has anybody seen that guy? As a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, has anybody seen Fauci? Because I used to, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go 2 feet without seeing that ugly mug somewhere talking. He's the science, don't you know? Where's that guy? When that guy is for what he did to this country. Here's another clip of Bobby here.
We have to acknowledge that there was a cause. We acknowledge that there was a benefit. We can't quantify either one because of the data chaos at CDC. And that's all I'm saying. And they think I'm being evasive because I won't make a kind of a statement that's almost religious in nature. Did it save 1 million lives? Well, there's no data to support that. There may be data, you know, there's no study, that there's modeling studies, there's faulty data. I'm not going to sign on to something if I can't do it to a scientific certainty. It doesn't mean that I'm, you know, anti-vax. It just means I'm pro-science.
And then this is him, and this is the last one I'm going to play. But this is him responding to Elizabeth Warren, who said that he promised he was going to recommend products for which there is, well, he promised that he wasn't going to take the COVID vaccinations off the market or something to that effect, which was not what he said, but he set her straight here in this clip.
I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hear that? I never, well, Elizabeth Warren is telling him, and you got to understand that these people, they're not smart. They just are not. We've been tricked into believing that these politicians are smart. Now, you got Bobby here with all the facts, with all the data, with all the statistics. Again, and maybe you're not a weird guy like me. You could sit through and listen to all of this, but the fact of the matter is that there was not a single point in this entire congressional hearing that Bobby was on the back foot. He pressed forward because he knew he had the facts on his side. He had the actual science on his side. He had truth on his side. So he was 100% confident. I don't think I've ever seen anybody as confident as him in a congressional hearing. And they were throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it. And then you have Elizabeth Warren saying basically, but you lied. You said that you wouldn't take the COVID vaccination. And what he's saying is, it's not a vaccination. He's saying that he never promised that he was going to recommend products for which there is no indication. And that's the truth. They still, and you notice that little parting shot with Warren, that she took $880 some odd $1,000 from Big Pharma, and pretty much everybody at the Hill did. I was looking at something. The American Academy of Pediatrics, dedicated to the health of all children, on their webpage has like the corporate donors, Merck, Moderna, Sanofi, and Pfizer. So why do you think the American Academy of Pediatrics would be pushing for all these vaccines? Why do you think? Like, it's a no-brainer. It's kind of like back in the day when you had your trusted news sources brought to you by Pfizer. You remember that? Does anybody remember that? We were being lied to. We were being gaslit. We still are. I mean, they just move on. Like, the news cycle is just crazy. They gaslight us. They lie to us. They obfuscate facts. They promote fiction, and then they move on to the next manufactured outrage that they're gaslighting us with. It is maddening to me. And I want it, guys, I wanted this first show to be not controversial. I wanted it to be a soft foray into, like me, Blackbeard, into this whole podcast space. But man, the more the more you know, the more pissed off you become because you understand this worldview. Steve Day says it best. This is the spirit of the age. It's an old demonic presence. And again, I said at the beginning of this podcast, I am a Christian conservative dad. That's my background. So my worldview, that's the rubric that I'm looking at the world through that rubric. And what I see is um, dishonest political actors with demonic overtones in everything that I see. I see people like Elizabeth Warren, and I'm just like, ugh. I I see people like what's that idiot's name from Texas, the one that talks like a ghetto Shaniqua, but she went to a $1 million prep school. That idiot. I just and it jades me. The thing that keeps me grounded is I touch grass every day. I got the 7-year-old. We're out there. We're doing things. We're causing his mom to lose hair follicles, and it's great. I love it. He'll never come in contact with the Pfizer. As a matter of fact, the last wellness check we took him to, and I don't. He was a young kid, and they were giving me side eye about one. We went in. We're not wearing masks, and like the little girly man nurse there said, "Well, if you're not going to wear a mask, that means I got to get suited up and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "All right, go right ahead, Crockett. You're right, Brian." Oh, hey, Lynette. Good gravy. I am like just missing all of these folks. I'm so sorry. Doug, Lynette, Brian. I think Clay is on here. Um, nice. They ain't looking for him. Yeah, yeah. So many drugs made by Pfizer. Yeah. Did you know that in other countries it's illegal for them to like break into the soccer game or FIFA? Brought to you by Pfizer. That it's illegal, and there's a good reason why. you know, they're promoting things like Moderna. They had never brought a successful drug to market before the COVID vaccination. Never. They've been rejected. Their R&D, tons of money. I think somewhere up close to billions of dollars. All of these drugs that never made it to the market because they were all garbage. But they got the COVID one right. That's what you're supposed to believe. You're supposed to believe that this company, who is garbage on everything else, got this one right. Nope. Brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Merck. Anyway, the 7-year-old, he's not getting any of this garbage. That he's going to have natural immunity. The thing that they told us was not a thing, but has been a thing since the beginning of time. He's going to develop that because he's outside, he's in nature. He's not going to need asthma medicine. He's not going to be allergic to peanuts and tree nuts or any of that stuff because he touches grass. That's why. I think, and Lynette, I hope that you are correct. Lynette says, I think U.S. is one. Oh, hang on. I think U.S. and one other nation allows advertising. RFK Jr. said he was going to get rid of those. Man, that would be awesome. I love the fact that he probably said this 50 times, but like someone would ask a stupid question. He would answer that very stupid question with facts and science, and he would say, and this is why I'm firing everybody here. And then you're like, yes, this is what I voted for. I voted for this. This level of testosterone, this level of testicular fortitude is what I voted for. Like, he must have said it 50 times. Like, he'd give his answer and he goes, and that's why I'm firing everybody, because all of them misled us and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want. Again, going back to the way we're raising Eli is all natural. Kid eats farm raised eggs, milk. He's out there rolling in the mud with Bo. I mean, we have to kind of watch him with that because him and Bo get pretty wild. They tend to act like brothers, and I had to tell Eli basically, you can't act like a dog around him because dogs nip, and you don't have like the skin and the fur, and then Eli gets mad, and then it's a whole thing. But the fact of the matter is, Eli's day, Lynette, and Eli plays with a big stinky. My dog Bo don't stink. Come on now. But the fact of the matter is, uh, Eli, when he wakes up in the morning, he has God in front of him. We say prayer every night to take him to sleep. We pray every day when he wakes up. When he comes downstairs, he has we have the prayer plates there. He passes the Constitution. We talk about that. He passes several firearms. We talk about that. He sits down. We eat breakfast together. We pray about it. We talk to God about, our day. Thank him for the blessing of life. Thank him for the blessing of living out in God's country and touching grass and all of that. Thank you for his mama, who is a northern girl. Learn how to make grits like it ain't nobody business. Like, they have this thing on the market, this seasoning called Slap Your Mama. My wife's grits will make you slap your mama. I'm just saying, a shout out to Nicole Francis. You did that thing, girl. It's the greatest thing. But anyway, you got me thinking about grits now. But Eli's day is kind of crafted around that. We have a Christian warrior prayer on the fridge. And what that thing does is it's a creed. Like, you're going to be the best warrior for Christ. You're going to listen to your mom and your dad because they're shaping you basically to be a fearless warrior for Christ and basically make society better. And it's his responsibility to go through his day with Christ in front of him and basically listening and doing all the things and that sort of thing. As a matter of fact, on one of these podcasts, I'll bring it up and I'll read it. It's a really cool thing. But his day is centered around that. Like, and again, I'm no saint. Anybody that knows me understands that. Um, don't talk to Jamie. He embellishes things. So there you go with that. But the one thing I do know is the more you keep Christ in front of you, the less likely you are to do stupid things and fall for stupid things. So that is our entire worldview as we raise the 7-year old. And hopefully he grows up and he's one of those warriors on the wall that protects the rights of your kids, your grandkids, and many other kids, and then he continues it on. I talk about this often, when I talk about and I talk a lot about men. I love godly women though, but I'm not a woman, so that's how that thing rolls. But I talk about godly men and our duties to be protectors and defenders and that sort of thing, and that if we want this country to be the country that is described in that, like in my reel today, that huge constitution that I have in a prominent place in my home that's backlit with all the accompanying articles and all of that, and a Bible on the side. If we want our country, after we're dead and gone, to remain the ideals that are enshrined in that document, we got to raise our boys not to be what we've seen for the last 8 years. We have to raise them differently. And one of the things when my wife and I were discussing her being a stay-at-home mom, her homeschooling Eli, the one thing that never even entered into our mind was um, the financial part of it, because we figured that even if we took a huge financial hit, Eli is worth that. He is. America is worth. North Dakota is worth that. The boy that we are raising, the girl that he marries, is worth that. Our grandkids are worth that. And so it was not an issue. And I believe that if more people had that mindset, when it, like, so many people see their kid as just, I don't know, a kid. So he has to go to school. He has to go through these social institutions because you want him to be normal, right? I don't want Eli to be normal. If today's normal is the normal that you're talking about, I don't. I'm sorry. To me, that's craziness. I look at I, whenever I have to go into like Fargo or Walmart, even Shields now, some of these places, and I see these boys and they're broken. They're broken. You see them. They have the different colored hair. They're overweight. They have like little man boobs. It's and your heart hurts for them because you know what they were designed to be, and society is breaking them. That will never happen to my son. If I have anything to say about it, not willingly anyway. I mean, it's going to be a fight. But Eli's a good kid. He's a boy, so he's not a good kid. He's not a like sit on his P's and Q's. The other day we're sitting down to eat, and this is my fault. I tend to, especially if it's good and it's meat, my knife and fork kind of go away, and I just kind of pull things apart with my hands and just kind of shove them in my face hole. And we noticed that Eli had started doing that, and we're like, "Oh my God, we can't take this kid anywhere now." But I also know that while he's doing that, all of God's natural antioxidants and things like that are going right into his body because his fingers are dirty and that whole thing. But we raise our kid with the future in mind, not what society's future would have him be. I want him to be what God dictated him to be: a protector, a defender, a follower of Christ, a head of household, and a defender of the culture at large. And the culture at large is a is a very big concept. Like if you go back in the day when our founding documents were being dreamt up, it was God forward. Don't listen to the liberals. The folks at your school, just kind of turn them off right now. Our founders were God forward. It's the reason why the Theo in their mind was the actual Theo, was God. It's the reason that they did not make the Theo government. They restrained government. And you remember when we talked about this earlier in this podcast, like what's his name? Tim Kain, senator from Virginia, when he's talking about how we're not a theocracy and government basically, yeah. When you talk about getting your rights from God, you're a theocracy like the Middle East and blah blah blah. That guy doesn't get it. And again, I'll say now what I said then. That guy should not hold elected office because what he said in that clip, I should find that thing again. What he said in that clip defies what we were built, what this country was built upon. Just so the folks that came late to the party, I am going to play this one more time and then I'm done with the clips. Give me 2 seconds. This to me is just unbelievable. So here is Tim Kain. He was like just a couple thousand votes away from being vice president. Listen to this guy.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
Think about that. That is a sitting senator. He was going to be vice president. And he says the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our government is extremely troubling. No. I think that the sentiment that he is expressing here is extremely troubling. And as we discussed earlier, if our rights don't come from God and it comes from government, we're in trouble. Because that means we had no business going against King George because he was our Theo. That's what that means. If our rights come from government, we are still British subjects. If our rights come from government, that means government can take those rights when they need to. See the COVID fiasco. Think about that. They shut down schools. They shut down churches. They told you couldn't go certain places. Honorary people like me just, ignored them, and I went wherever I wanted to go. But then again, I'm not a weenie. But guys like this covet power. They want to be your Theo. They don't want you to be God first, Christian first. They want you to be Tim Kain first, government first. Then you ask fewer questions. Anyway, oh man, time just kind of flew by. And again, I tend to bloviate, so maybe it's a good fit. But Guns in the 701. I love these guys. I hope you guys, all of their sponsors, go out, support them so we can bring you more content. I'm going to do this every Friday. I'm going to be uploading reels of me and Eli doing like just crazy me and Eli things. Um, I'm a bow hunter, so we're going to have a lot of those. Like a lot of that content. I build firearms, so we're gonna have some of that. You see those two packs right there, and they have that little patch on them. We're gonna discuss those. I think in the next episode. Those are bug out bags, truck bags, bug in bags, bags that you just grab when you got to get out the door. Something happens. Like I said, I'm a prepper. We're going to talk about that. But I have you can't see it, but I have a whole desk sitting over there. And one of the shows that I'm prepping for is how to fill up one of those things. Like if you come into my house and something happens and you see that patch that says "come and take it" on there, that's a bag that you can pick up and go, and you will be okay for 2 weeks. I guarantee it. You just grab that bag. If it has, now I have a couple dozen of them over there that are empty, and they don't have that patch on them. You see the patch, good to go. My wife knows that. Eli knows that. If you come to my house and you're a decent person, and you wouldn't come to my house if you were not, and you see that patch, it means that thing is ready to go. I'm going to show you what I put in there, and it is an unbelievable. Like I laid it out on my workbench back there. It goes all the way across. Like there's water in there. There's a full trauma kit in there. There's life straws in there. There are tabs in there. There's ammo in there. There's the primary and secondary weapon in there. Did I mention ammo? There are fixed blade knives in there. There are folding knives in there. There are ponchos, blankets, the whole all of them in those little packs right there. It's going to be phenomenal. It was awesome hanging out with you guys. Like I said, when I started this podcast, I think I was listening to Son of the Dirty South. That's me in a nutshell. I don't know how many Brantley Gilbert fans, but me and Eli routinely rock out with that thing because that's in my heart. That's what I am. I'm a Southern boy in the middle of North Dakota, and I think of North Dakota as my second home. I love this place up here. I absolutely love it. So we're gonna go out with a little Jason Aldean. It was awesome hanging out with you guys. Stay tuned for further content. Lynette, Brian, Dougie Fresh, as I like to call him, One Shot Cap, all you guys that I missed. Love that you hung out with me for 2 hours. Try that in a small town.
Like cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend don't try that in a small town.
God bless, guys. Good night.